Okay, so we will continue with lesson 5. This is a pre-recorded lesson. So today what we are going to look at is mainly on solving quadratic equation. But before we look at solving quadratic equation, we will look at factorization of quadratic expression first. Okay, then only solving quadratic equation. So actually factorization of quadratic expression, you have learned this earlier in form 2, okay, where you try to solve a quadratic expression and also you factorize the expression with common factors and all that, okay? So today we are going to start with a bit of revisions on factorizations, and there are two types of quadratic expression, as you can see here. So these are actually the same. It's just that for this expression, okay, we do not have the second terms in the expression. The second terms means this. So therefore, this expression can also be written as ax squared minus c squared. Okay, what you see over here is the constant. All right, but for this, we have the complete general form, which is a, b, and c. Okay, so we will start with the first one. Later, you will see what I meant. So in this case, we have three examples here. So if we look at the first one, if we compare this with the general form, am squared plus bm plus c. So actually what you don't have is the second term. And what you have is the first term, m squared. But in this case, your coefficient is 1. And you have the constant. And in this case, your c is equal to negative 4. So from here, we are going to change this into bracket square minus bracket square. Okay, so this from 1 square, it becomes both terms are in terms of square. So what we do here is m squared minus, okay, when you have to think of a number where you square it, you will get a 4. So that is a 2. So you have to be careful to take note that the operations that we are using here is a minus. Okay, because the identity that we are going to use here can only be used when it is a squared minus b squared. So like a squared plus b squared cannot be written in this identity. So now we go to the third step where we can write it in two brackets where it is m plus 2 and m minus 2. So these two are called the factors. Okay, next. Second example. So same thing, we will write it in bracket square, bracket square. So here you can see the difference is I have a 4 here. Just now it was 1. So basically I can just ignore it. I will just write it as m squared. But when you have a 4 here, means you have to think of the numbers. Where you square it, you get 4. Okay, because you are going to put it in the same brackets here. Therefore, what I have here is 2h. So if you think about it, it will be 2 square, you get a 4, and then h square. And everybody should know that 1 times 1 equals to 1. So this is a 1 square here. Therefore, I can write it as 2h plus 1 and 2h minus 1. That's it. Okay, so for the third one, it's the same. I have bracket square minus bracket square. So in order to get a 9, it will be a 3y. This is 16, so it's a 4 square. So it will be 3y minus 4 and 3y plus So that's for the first three examples. So this is actually should be very familiar to you already. Okay, next thing is when it comes to fraction. Okay, so actually it's still the same. Okay, it's just that now our answers will be in fraction form. So what you need to think of is the numbers at the denominator. So 64 is 8 square, 9 is 3 square. So same thing, I will write it in the form of bracket square minus bracket square. So this here will become 1 over 8. Okay, so the 1 here, as I told you earlier, 1 times 1 is 1. So you get 1 over 8 here, and this is 1 over 3x. Therefore, the final answer for this is 1 over 8 minus 1 over 3x, then 1 over 8 plus 1 over 3x. Okay, and then for this, so this is a 9 square. So obviously I have 1 over 9y square, and this is a very big number. So just now, if we are doing small number, easily we can get like 3 times 3 equals to 9, or 2 square equals to 4. But when it comes to 361, probably you can't think of what is the number. So what you do here, you just use your calculator, you press a square root 361. So you get a 19. Okay, square root 361, you should get a 19. Okay, therefore your final answer is 1 over 9y minus 19 and 1 over 9y plus 19. Okay, and this one easy. This one is just 6 square. Therefore, your answer is 1 over 6w square minus 1 square. Okay, hence this is 1 over 6w plus 1, 1 over 6w minus 1. Okay, that is your answer. Okay, so for this, I want you to do practice 1. I want you to practice factorizing the quadratic expression in this form. Okay, so next time, whenever you see the quadratic expression in this form, don't always depend on the calculator. You can always do some simple calculation with calculator, but of course, you must know that, you must recognize that when it comes to this form, you can always write it in the form of 2 brackets. Okay, you must always remember a square minus b square is equals to a minus b, a plus b. Okay, so this is very important. Okay, it helps a lot in your factorization. So the next factorization that we are going to look at is ax squared plus bx plus c. So this is what we call as the cross method, or in the exam, they will just tell you factorization method. So it's like this. If the questions request you to do factorization method, means you have to show the working like this. Or else, if they give you a situations and they never mention anything, they only say factorize or solve the quadratic equation, then you can actually use your calculator directly. Okay, but okay, you must make sure that you can do this method. Right? You can use your calculator in the exam, but you must learn all these factorization method as well. So that's why today I started the lesson with the revision of all these method for you to do factorization manually. Okay, so in this case, there's one thing I want you to notice is, I want you to notice and also to remember is, you can see here, this is x times x, you get x squared. So what you have over here is actually the values of c, as you can see in your quadratic expression. And what you have over here is actually the bx. Okay, so p plus q is actually equals to b. Okay, this is your bx here. So which means when you multiply the roots, the P and Q are actually the solutions or the roots. When you multiply the roots, you will get the values of C. When you add up the roots, you will get the values of B, where P plus Q equals to B. So this is actually your values of B. This is actually the values of C. So that's why you always hear people saying that B is the sum of roots and C is the multiplication of roots, or we say the product of roots. Okay, so I will go into solving later. Now we will focus on factorization first. So I will do some examples here. So we will start with easy examples. So whenever you are doing cross methods, right, sometimes you will need to do more than once. Means we will do trial and error. So you will start with your table, put in the values I told you just now. This is your x squared. This is your C. If it's a positive, put in positive. It's a negative, put in negative. And this is negative 7x. The signs are very important here. Okay, so how do we get x squared? It will be x times x. And then how do we get 12? So you have to think of the factors of 12. So factors of 12, we have 1, 12. We have 3, 4. We have 2, 6. So we have 3 choices here. So you have to be very smart in choosing which one to use. Like for example, if you choose 112, right? And then when you add up the numbers, you will never get 7. So among the 3 choices here, the most likely will give you 7. It will be 3, 4. Okay? Because 3 plus 4 equals to 7. Negative 3 minus 4 equals to negative 7. So negative 7 is what you want. So you will put in 4, 3. You cross multiply. This is 4x. This is 3x. So how do you get your negative 7? You will have to put in negative, negative. So when you put in negative, negative, negative 4 minus 3, remember this is P plus Q over here, and this is PQ over here. So when you put in negative, negative, here also you must put in negative, negative. Therefore, your answer here is x squared minus 7x plus 12 is equals to x minus 4 times x minus 3. So that is what we call as your factors. So in this case, you have 2 factors. Okay, so for B, same thing, I will do it quickly. So we will use the same method. Remember the first step, draw your table, put in. So this is negative 10, this is positive 3x. So this will be x and x. And please, you must know the factors of 10, 2, 5, or 1, 10. So remember, this is P plus Q, this is PQ. So obviously, if you want to find P plus Q of the sum of the roots to get a 3, okay, 2, 5 is more likely will give you a 3. So you put in 2, 5 here. Then you cross multiply. So that is a 2x, 5x. So this one you can see, in order for you to get a positive 3x, this has to be positive, this has to be negative. So you put in negative here, you put in positive here, then you check. When you multiply these two, do you actually get a negative 10? Yes. Okay, so that is your answer. So you will put in x squared plus 3x minus 10 is equals to x minus 2, x plus 5. Done with your factorizations. Okay, so this is considered as easy factorization because in this case, your a equals to 1 here, your a equals to 1 is this one a equals to 1. Now we will see the quadratic expression where a is not equals to 1. Okay, so for this, we will start the same thing, put in the table. So this is 3x squared. This is negative 8. This is negative 10x. Okay, so this one, because here is a 3. Okay, when it's a 3, there's not much choices. We only have 3x and x, of course. Okay, but when it comes to 8, we have two choices here. We have 1, 8 and also 2, 4. Okay, so in this case, this will be, you have to try an error. Okay, you have to try an error where you can just simply put in, okay, you can just simply put in, or you can think first, which one will actually give me a 10 when I multiply. So in this case, if let's say I simply put in 1, 8, then I cross multiply, obviously I will not be able to get 10. Okay, I will not be able to get 10. So this is wrong. Okay, this part is wrong. No. So I have to do it again. So this is 3x squared. This is negative 8. This is negative 10x. So this is 3x and x. Now I will try a 4, 2. Okay, so when I do 4, 2, so when I do 4, 2, this will be 4x. This will be 6x. So I have to put negative, negative. So this is also negative and negative. However, if you look at negative 4 times negative 2, is this the correct answer? Okay, is this the correct answer? Negative 4 times negative 2, do I get a negative 8? No. So now this part is wrong. So I have to do it again. Okay, so if you don't think properly before you're putting in the numbers, then you have to do try and error. Okay, you have to do try and error. Do a few times, then you will get your answer. So now I change the place. This is 2, this is 4. Again, cross multiply, cross multiply. So in this case, I will have a negative 12. This is positive. So this is positive, this is negative, and therefore, this will become negative 8. Okay, now everything is correct. I will write down the final answer. 3x squared minus 10x minus 8 is equals to 3x plus 2 and x minus 4. Alright, so this is the factors of 3x squared minus 10x minus 8. Okay, next example for this. So in this case, the difference is now the A we have more than one choice, 1, 6 or 2, 3. Okay, but same thing, same method. I'm going to put in 6x squared. This is positive 5. This is negative 17x. Okay, right. So I will put in 6x and x first. And then what I have here is I can put in, the only choice is 5, 1. Okay, so when I put in 5, 1, I cross multiply 5x and 6x. So you can see this is wrong because I will never get a negative 17. So even if I change the place also, if I change the place to 5, 1 also, I will not get 17x. So I have to reconsider this part. So reconsidering that part, I will now put 3x and 2x. So this is 6x squared, this is plus 5, this is negative 17x. Okay, then now I have to do a little bit of thinking. It's either 5, 1 or 1, 5. Okay, so I think I will put 1, 5. Then I cross multiply. This is 2x. This is 15x. So what I have here is a negative and negative. I will get a negative 17x. Okay, negative means I add them up lah. So I will get a negative 17x. So this is negative. When I multiply them together, I will get a positive 5. Okay, that's good. Okay, so now I'm going to write down 6x squared minus 17x plus 5. It is equals to 3x minus 1 and 2x minus 5. Alright, okay. So this is called the factorization involving ax squared plus bx plus c in general form. So I need you to do your practice from question 1 until question number 7. Okay, then now let's look at this one. So if you look at A here, this is similar to what we have done in the first part of this lesson. However, if I ask you to find the square root 18, you will never get it. If I ask you to find the square root 2, you will never get it as well. So we have to do something else before we can use ax squared minus b squared equals to a plus b times a minus b. Okay, so we have to do something first. So the something here is we have to factorize 2. As you can see, 18 and 2, they have a common factor, which is 2. So I will factor out the 2. I get a 9x squared minus 1. Okay, this looks more convenient to actually get a square in terms of square, which means what I have here is actually 3x squared minus 1 squared. And hence, I can write it as 3x plus 1 and 3x minus 1. Okay? So, when you factor out the 2 will not disappear, yeah? The 2 will remain here, remain outside. Okay? Then later, if we are solving the equation, then we will see what happened to the 2. Okay, for B, 3y squared plus 9y plus 6. So if we look at all the coefficients, they have a common factor, which is 3. So we take out the 3, and then we are left with y squared plus 3y plus 2. Okay, 3 remains outside. Now we are going to factorize the one in the brackets. So that will be a y, 2, 1. Okay, so same thing, you are using the table. This is positive 2, this is positive 3y. Then you cross multiply. This is 2y, this is y. So this is plus, plus. So you get a 3y. This is positive, positive. So when you multiply them together, you get a positive 2. So what you have here is y plus 2, y plus 1. That's it. And the 3 remain there. Okay, don't move the 3. Later, I will show you what happened to the factors. I mean the 3 and the 2 that you have moved out. So this thing is called factorization. So factorizations means you find the factors out of the quadratic expression. So you have to practice. So in this case, when you see this, right, this is not the general form of a quadratic expression. So what you need to do is you need to change this into the general form, which is ax squared plus bx plus c. Then only you can start factorizing and get your answer. And because this is power of 2, so as you can see, because they are all power of 2, so your answer definitely will have 2 factors. Okay, you can see here we have 2 factors. Okay, this one 2 factors, 2 factors. So quadratic power of 2 means you must get 2 factors. Okay, so this is practice 3 that you have to do as your homework. Right, now we will look at what happened when we let the quadratic expression equals to 0. So as I told you earlier, in lesson 4, I have explained to you what does it mean by the solutions of quadratic expression. So here you have equation 1. Okay, so your first equation is a quadratic equation, ax squared plus bx plus c. So you know that when we draw it in a graph, okay, this is a quadratic equation, quadratic graph. Okay, this is your first equation. Then this is your second equation. So your second equation is y equals to 0. So all of you should know that y equals to 0 is the x-axis. This is your second equation. So where is your x-axis? Your x-axis is over here. This is your second equation or second graph. So we can see there are intersections between the quadratic graph and the x-axis. So you have 2 points of intersections. So these 2 points of intersections are what we call as the solutions to the equation ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. Or we call it as the roots, or they are known as the x-intercepts. So in this case, we have two x-intercepts. And if you remember, whenever you want to find x-intercept, we let y equals to 0. Okay, so it's the same thing if you have a negative quadratic. So if you have a negative quadratic, means your graph will look like this. So you can see there is an intersection, or there are two intersections between the x-axis and the graph. So you have two intersections here, which are also known as the solutions or the roots. So you must remember the solution or roots of a quadratic equation is actually the point of intersections between the two graphs. The first one is the quadratic graph. The second one is the x-axis, y equals to 0. Okay, this is y equals to 0. So that's what we call the roots or the solutions. So I'll give you an example. So when it comes to quadratic equation, this is equation. So we don't say factorize the quadratic equation anymore. We will say solve the quadratic equation. So when you solve it, you actually have to do factorization first. So this question is the one that we have seen earlier. So before you can solve, you must factorize first. So when you factorize, if we see the example earlier, when we factorize this, we get this answer, 3x plus 2x minus 4. So I will just put it here, 3x plus 2, x minus 4. The way to factorize it, I have shown you just now. Okay, after you have factorized it into two factors, then only we can solve. Okay, now we solve. When you solve, what you do is you take 3x plus 2 equals to 0 and x minus 4 equals to 0. So you can see this is x equals to negative 2 over 3, and this is x equals to 4. So how do I illustrate it in a graph? So after I have found the roots, right, I know that I have two roots here. Okay, so this is a positive quadratic. So it's a smiling face looking like this. And then I have 2 points of intersection. First one is -2/3. Second one is 4. So these two are the solutions of the equations, or we call it the roots of the equations, or we call it the x-intercepts. Okay, so they all have the same meaning actually. So these are the roots for the equation, or the solutions of the equations. Okay, same thing if I have it like this. Okay, just now we also remember you must arrange it in general form. So this is called general form. So after you have done with the general form, you factorize it. Then only you solve. So we go back to the example just now. Actually, it's the same example. I can see after factorizing, this is what I get. 3x minus 1, 2x minus 5. So 3x minus 1, 2x minus 5. So when I solve it, same thing, 3x minus 1 equals to 0. So x is equals to 1/3. 2x minus 5 equals to 0. So x equals to 5/2. So this is roughly 0.3333. And this is 2.5. So I want to find the decimal numbers because I want to know the positions of the roots in the graph. So these two are positive, means my graph will be on the right hand side like this. So this will be 1/3 and this will be 5/2. So this is y-axis, x-axis. Okay, so that is solving. So you can see that the way to solve it, you must factorize first, then only you solve. And then you also know that where is the position of the roots on the graph. Okay, it's the point of intersections between the quadratic graph and also the x-axis. So I want you to do your homework. All the questions I give you in the slides, practice 1, practice 2, and practice 3, 3 practices. And also I want you to do your textbook. So you have 2 homework for until next week. So your first homework is all the questions in the slides. Just copy them now and factorize them. And number 2 is 1.1F, question 1 and 2. So if you look at 1.1F, right, I will give you an example for 2D. So if you look at question 2, they are all not in general form. So please, before you start factorizing, you must make sure that it is in general form. So it is in general form means, okay, how do I change this? I have to multiply by a. So that is a squared plus 5 equals to 6a. So what you have here is a squared minus 6a plus 5 equals to 0. So you must make sure it is in general form first before you start factorizing. Okay, once you get this, now you can factorize. So how do you factorize? For your homework, I want all of you to do the factorization method or the cross method. Okay, must show your working. So this is positive 5, this is negative 6a. So obviously this is a and a, this is 2, 3, cross multiply, this is 2a, 3a, negative, negative, this is negative, negative. Check. Negative 2 times negative, negative 2, and what am I doing? This is supposed to be a 5. Oh no. Okay, I'm too excited to end the lesson. Okay, sorry for that. So this is supposed to be, okay, rewind, delete everything I told you just now. So this is positive 5, this is negative 6a. So this is a, this is a. So here what you get is 1 times 5. Okay, cross multiply now. So this is A, this is 5A. So this is negative, this is negative. Okay, so negative 1 minus 5, you get a negative 6. So this is negative, negative as well. You multiply them together, you get a positive 5. So your factors here are A minus 1, A minus 5 equals to 0. Then only you solve it. A minus 1 equals to 0, A equals to 1, A minus 5 equals to 0, so A equals to 5. So for all the questions that you are doing in this homework, you make sure you show complete working like this. Okay, so I think that's it for today's lesson. So please make sure you really can do the factorization. Okay, before you go to your calculator, don't always depend on your calculator. Okay, right? So I'm going to send you the slides and also the link to the video. Okay, that's it. Okay, thank you, class.